When you have an impossible mission, it's time to call a team of professionals. It's time to call in the A-Team. Because we're talking movies, we're talking Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, starring Jason Statham, Aubrey Plaza, and Josh Hartnett. Written by Ivan Atkinson, Marn Davis, and Guy Ritchie, who also directed. So Chris, when you're taking them to dinner, before you get inside them sexually?
Yeah, see, that doesn't work because it's a two-person quote, but celebrity Trojan horse, that's brilliant. It's classic. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? As Scott said, we're talking Operation Fortune, the latest release from Guy Ritchie, filmmaker, producer, writer, and ex-Madonna husband. Scott, take us away.
Like, how long ago has it been since they've been divorced? And that's the tag you're putting on them?
Listen, when you get married to Madonna, that's it. That's like now part of like your cinematic universe, right? Also,
your cinematic universe.
Well, also when like your third movie is a stinker that you are forced to direct for your celebrity wife, that is an awful film. What's it called? Like Castaway or Blown Away
or Swept Away,
or Sunk to the Bottom of the 20,000 Leagues Away or something like that. Yes. Then you get stuck with that moniker.
Yeah, now I know why you picked this movie, Chris. Like the whole time watching, I'm like, fucking Chris and his like stupid going back to the 90s directors, like trying to revisit his childhood. Like
I did not pick this movie. This is your choice.
But I'm gonna push it more towards you.
Wait, before we get off Madonna, I mean, because so many people have got on her.
Hey now.
Oh my
god. So you're coming off, you do Lock, Stock, you're coming off Snatch, like you're a fucking hot director. And then your wife is like, you got to fucking do this fucking movie. Like, how did that conversation around the dinner table go? There is no way Guy Ritchie looked at that script and went, yes, baby, that's the next fucking film I want to do while I'm this hot up and coming fucking director. You know what I mean? Like, did she have blackmail? Was it like part of the fucking, marriage vows? Like, to love and to hold, to direct me in bad movies. Like, what? I would love to know how that fucking transaction went down.
It came out 2002, right?
What's that?
So that's her. Evita was 96, and she had Buzz around that. So that could have been like, listen, this is your Oscar.
There's no way that this was looked at as like, holy shit, you've got a lot of buzz coming off of another film. This is like,
but it was also
not a
like
musical. This is not a musical. It's a remake of an Italian film. Like, and if Guy Ritchie, go watch a movie with Madonna in it, unless she's basically playing Madonna. And I would say Evita is also basically Madonna, just the Argentinian version. She's an awful actor. Like, she doesn't have range. She's super wooden. Like, any of her films, like, unless it's like, again, A League of Her Own, basically playing Madonna. Desperately Seeking Susan, like literally basically playing Madonna. Like, when she is not playing Madonna, she is not a good actor, because it's not acting when you're playing yourself, unless you're Danny Francesco or Franco or however. How do you say his name in this film?
Is that Danny Francesco? Do you know what? I'm a little bit excited.
I do love Danny Francesco.
Everyone loves Danny Francesco.
Francesco, yeah, because him playing the best role he ever played was playing himself, or with himself, I should say. All right, let's talk about this fucking flick.
Okay, so yeah. So this was really a paint by numbers movie.
Yeah, and I would say that there was some numbers missing as well as some paint.
Yes, like it didn't reinvent the action comedy genre. It didn't really add anything to it. I would say this is, if I had to categorize it, it was just a pay and see kind of picture, right? It's one, I'm getting paid to just fucking make this, and hopefully it becomes a franchise, so I get some points on the back end with the sequels and see some actors take on roles they don't normally take on.
So, when I was watching it, I was kind of thinking the same thing. And the only thing that kind of throws a curveball into that is that he also wrote the script. Like, if this was just like a hire, like, Guy Ritchie needs a job, go out, direct this thing, blah, 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 blah. But like, he produced it, he directed it, and he fucking wrote it. Like, he's one of the producers, he is one of the writers. So it means that like he has a certain amount of himself invested in this film, and it had a $50 million budget, and it's only made 35 million at the box office. I know there was like some weird shit with the release. It was originally supposed to come out in like between January and March of 2022, and then it got delayed, and then they didn't really like put a bunch of like marketing back behind it because they were like, wow, we already kind of fucking paid all the, like, there could be another $50 million sitting on the table just in marketing. Like, so this is a fucking bomb unless it's getting like mad cash from, I saw it on Amazon. Is that where you saw it?
Yeah, which is now an Amazon original, so they paid for it.
They paid for it.
So yeah, this film had a distribution problem, which caused a marketing problem, and then caused a streaming service to take it over, and then hopefully everybody will see it later. Now, like we said, we here watched it on Prime, and since it's been released on Prime, which was I think April 7th, it's been the #1 movie in Canada for Amazon's top 10 till now. Like, I think even now it's still #1, and it's been like 3 weeks.
Well, and audiences, like, it's got an 82% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, 52 from the critics, which is not surprising. But I still have not been able to get a handle on streaming numbers and like what the financials are around that.
Yeah, like whatever they're paying them to just take it and just add the Amazon logo. But talking about logos, like, it was super fucking weird seeing Miramax come up in front of this movie, was it not?
But it was like Miramax and then a bunch of shit written underneath in it, like a subsidiary of X-Core, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
blah, blah.
It's just like Miramax, not Weinstein.
I was just gonna say, I'm surprised it's this production company has no association with the Harvey Weinstein or any Weinsteins in its future, past, or present. You know what I mean? It was like almost felt like there should be a fucking disclaimer there. Especially because Miramax is literally named after Miriam and Max, the Weinstein's brothers' parents. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get any closer than what they named their next company, Weinstein Core or whatever. You know what I mean?
No, I don't
Weinstein
think.
Company. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that. But yeah, like, the reason why this had a distribution problem, I was reading up on it. It was mainly because who the second villains were, like, not the main villains, not the third villains, but the second villains, because they're a group of Ukrainians. Apparently they were like, maybe we should put a pause on this with the Ukraine-Russian war, and then it just
that war's not over, so they're like, fuck it. That was also really weird too, because we do live in the world that we live in. I was like, oh really, Ukrainian bad guys? I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. But you're right, it's because like films take so fucking long to get made. It's like the people who are your bad guy today are your friend tomorrow, are the people you're defending the day after that. So I don't know, just keep everybody like nondescript.
Case in point, Rambo 3.
Yes. The Mujahideen. So Rambo was fighting the Americans?
No, the Russians.
Oh, I know, but it's like, wait, if he was fighting with the Taliban, well, technically he was fighting with the Mujahideen, not the Taliban, but the Mujahideen then basically helped usher in the Taliban after the fact. But yeah. So this is why you got to go hardcore Top Gun, the original, where they're not from Russia. They just have a red star. They are just some other country with a red star on their tail. And so it doesn't matter if Russia's your friend today or not today or whatever. We weren't fighting you because it was just the country with the red star that bought those jets from Russia, clearly, because they're MiGs, but also somehow had French Exocet anti-ship missiles. So whatever country that is, the bad country.
Whatever you say.
Wakanda. It was Wakanda.
But yeah, like, in terms of the film itself, like, it's doable for like 90 minutes, but
it's not 90 minutes. That's the problem. It's fucking over. It's 114 minutes. It's closer to 2 hours than it is the 90 minutes.
Okay, sure.
That's important, man. There's a lot of extra time here where you're just like do.
But it didn't have any of the Guy Ritchie tropes. That's why I was saying, like, it's It was like a little like just paint by numbers. Like I don't know, like I didn't delve into it, but I'm gonna assume he was doing this film and his other film that opens in like a week, The Covenant, most likely probably close to the same time, right? He was probably on, he probably wrapped this one and went into pre-production on The Covenant and probably had nothing to do with the post on this one.
Well, no, because this was supposed to be done in 2022, right? So yes, he would have been in pre-production, but remember for post, he would have like it would gone into its post process, and then he would have been probably jumping back and forth with his editors and stuff like that. He doesn't get a pass because he started working on another fucking project.
No, but I'm saying
he may have
like,
not had any involvement in post because he chose not to, but that's not because he was working on another project. That's not an excuse you're allowed to use.
yeah, but I'm just saying like none of his tropes are on here. There's no quick cuts. There's no split screen, and there's no fucking narration of what the plan's gonna be while you watch the plan happening while he narrates.
Yeah, and
Like,
there also isn't like a super dope fucking like 60s soundtrack, or like he's him like Quentin Tarantino, he's always got like, especially his early films have like great soundtracks.
yeah,
Like,
or even the slow-mo like fucking gunplay.
yeah, was there any
thing.
slow-mo in this? Because that's another one of
No.
his things, especially since Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, no, like not that I can remember. And if you ask my wife who watched this with me, we literally yesterday was just on Prime, and it just the cursor just stayed on Operation Fortune where the trailer started playing again, and then she like paused, and then she was like, "Didn't you watch this yesterday?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I can't even fucking remember what this movie is about," and I'm like, "That's probably gonna be most people."
That's basically your wife is basically giving you the synopsis of this whole film, or not the
Yeah.
synopsis, like the breakdown of the whole film.
Yeah.
Unremarkable, unrememberable. I mean, it does have, he always likes to throw in like an East, if possible, an East End gangster. Hugh Grant is clearly putting on his best version of like a cockney East or West End guy, kind of like the craze.
Rearrange some things.
You, Michaela, have a lot going on. But what about this weekend?
Listen, one thing I would say about this film is that Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is a fucking amazing actor. And I think it's because, like you, I grew up in the 90s. I remember Hugh Grant being in like rom-coms and stuff like that. And again, I was a child, so I wasn't putting a big critical lens on those films. But even since we've gone back and covered a couple of those types of films, you realize, they're often really well written. And fucking Hugh Grant is the fucking man. Like, he's a solid fucking actor. Like, he is the only thing in this film that I could 100% say was doing like fucking a perfect fucking job. Like, when he was on screen doing his stuff, being the slimy arms dealer guy, I'm like, I would watch a movie with the Hugh Grant character at this point. You know what I mean?
Which probably be like, for me, it was Aubrey Plaza.
What?
I think
Every once in a while she had a clever line, like, yes. So even that quote you used, the like get inside of them,
yeah, which in the trailer is a lot longer than in the actual movie. They actually cut out like the end of her saying the word sexually in the movie.
They didn't cut it out of the movie, because that's what I was going to comment on. That joke
they didn't cut it out of the movie. Just before she finished the word sexually, it was like sex. And
yes.
I hope you take them to dinner first. Before you get inside of them. Sex. I hope you take them to dinner first. Before you get inside of them. Sexually.
There was a couple places where there was like a bad edit. Like, you could tell that like it wasn't like they just, took too much out. They actually, the edit was in the fucking wrong spot. Like, someone bumped the mouse or something like that when they were in post, and nobody fucking caught it. It happened in a couple places. But that line itself, when she delivers it, instead of her having to qualify it and be like sexually, it was funnier when she just said it. There was a couple places too in this film where there was like exposition. Like, when he's doing the original break-in, when he's going to steal all the stuff, and they're using like an extreme close-up of her on the microphone. And that's kind of like what you're talking about, the whole like Guy Ritchie explaining the plan, blah, 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 blah. But it didn't really work there. It just felt like kind of baby fed, like, and now you're going to do this. Like, why was he watching? What the fuck was it that he sat down to watch? It wasn't Singing in the
Butch
Rain.
Cassidy, right?
Butch Cassidy. What the fuck was going on there? Like, there was so
Well,
much.
that's a nod to Guy Ritchie himself. Like when he was a kid and he watched that movie, that was the movie that made him be like, fuck, I want to be a filmmaker.
Okay, so you know how you do that without just making your film weird and boring? Is you have it on the TV, and as the camera keeps moving back and forth, as Jason Statham's character's like, robbing the place, you're picking that up. It's a nod. It's not supposed to be like grab your hand and fucking shake you all around. Like there was even if you want to have him sit on the bed for a moment, like he did it multiple times and just got caught up in the movie. There was just these like start and stops in this film. Like that not only was there not enough like quick editing aesthetically, like it was just like lulled out. Like the editing needed to be tighter to go from scene to scene to scene, even. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. Like with me, I wouldn't say that I enjoyed the film or even put it as good, right? Like to me, a lot of the stuff kind of threw me out. Like some of the joke gags worked. Like when who's the lawyer? Was he who was the guy at the top of the building?
Oh yeah.
That
Like the
he was
financial guy,
following?
the business guy or whatever.
Yeah. That, when
that's not him or that's not Bill. And then it's like,
and then all of a sudden like boom.
That isn't Ben Harris.
What do you mean it's not Ben Harris?
That's Ben Harris.
Right? Like that little joke was funny kind of thing, but also you look at it and you're like, so his whole plan, the whole like literal thing you see, because they did I'm guessing it was a drone shot because you're above, everything around that place was glass. So how did he go around the building to run behind Jason Statham without Jason Statham seeing him when he was literally walking up?
That whole like run scene that like led up to that kind of ending was a fucking waste of time. And again, they keep cutting back between like a drone shot and like I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to do like, a Jason Bourne running through the fucking alley type of thing, but it's not tight enough and it's not dynamic. And Jason Statham half the time feels like he's more like jogging. Like he's not, there's no intensity, right? It's like, oh, I'm just gonna, right, mate, I'm just gonna catch up to this guy. I'm gonna throw him off the building. Like
and then yeah, you'd have the intensity like, oh, you gotta go quicker or I'm gonna lose the signal. Be like, if you're attached, like how far did that guy go on that Vespa that he had to randomly just fall off the fucking Vespa to make
so that
it
he could catch up? That's right. Yeah. And so then there's jokes that like, again, back to, there's a bunch of like nods in here that just didn't work. So like Bugsy Malone, the whole dogs thing. I like dogs. Yeah, that's from fucking Snatch. And it was stupid. Every time I heard the thing about dogs and it was being said in that manner, I'm like, oh, come on. Again, guy, you're supposed to make a nod to your own films or a nod to who you are. You're not supposed to grab people by their fucking head and fucking swing them around. Be like, do you get the reference? Do you get the reference? Do you get the fucking reference? Well, you know what I mean?
Here I come.
Oh.
Here I come.
Oh.
All I'm saying is, what if this is as good as it gets?
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Can you give me another reference?
What do you mean?
Okay, you didn't get the joke because you're like, you're not supposed to hold the people's hand and knock it, and then you're like, did you get it? I'm like, no, and then you're supposed to like knock my head with other references. I thought you were gonna do like a Brad Pitt, like Cockney and Snatch, be like, okay, and then they had this one guy.
So honestly, like if I didn't have to watch this for the podcast, I wouldn't have watched it and I wouldn't have stayed watching it. Like if I had put this on and then like, oh, this looks cool, I like Guy Ritchie. Luckily, Guy Ritchie has let me down enough in the last like couple films that I don't have a lot of expectations with him anymore. But if this had been like the first one that came off of like when he had that like really solid run of films, but I mean he's had his ups and downs. I mean his best films, in my opinion, are actually what is your favorite Guy Ritchie film?
I love Lock, Stock, Snatch. Yeah, like Lock, Stock, Snatch. But even
which one of those is better?
I personally like Lock, Stock more than Snatch. But even the one he did, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I thought was fucking really good too.
Holy fuck, that movie was boring.
Really?
That movie was just like this.
That
It's
was
just
the
like,
first like Hugh Grant, like suave kind
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And you know what? Aesthetically, it looked great. I mean, it's the 60s. It's got all the beautiful cars. It's got the beautiful
it has the
outfits.
Army Hammer problem now, but
Well,
still.
I was excited for A Man from U.N.C.L.E. I'm like, oh, this is going to be really well done, and it's Guy Ritchie, and he's the perfect director for this. And then it's another one. I think I got halfway through it, and I was like, and done. We're not going to fucking watch any more of that film. Where are you a big fan of the Aladdin remake that he did? It's so weird. When I was like reading through, I forgot that he had done it's like gangster, wife's movie, Aladdin. You're like, what?
Well, you forgot Sherlock Holmes in between there.
No. I wasn't doing them in order, but it was just sort of like when you look at his filmography, it's like all this like British gangster stuff. Like RocknRolla is a fucking sick film, man.
Yes,
That's
I
another
do like
fucking
that one.
amazing film.
Yeah, Aladdin was okay until it went to like Slumdog Millionaire at the end, and they had to throw in like the Bollywood dance. I'm like, I don't understand why you got to end it on a Bollywood dance.
Okay, yeah, because there's not a whole lot. Like, I'm pretty sure like Arabia and India are two kind of separate types of culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe, but even still, they could have done like RRR, and they could have had that dance in the middle of the fucking movie. Like that could have been like, you know, when Prince Ali shows up, right? All of a sudden,
Ooh.
boom, that's how he wins it.
Yeah. Like when he first comes in on the elephants and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. When it comes to the end, I'm like, oh, okay. Sure,
So,
but I think he's doing Aladdin 2 too. So
Aladdin 2, like a second Aladdin?
Yeah.
Get that Disney money, right?
Oh, you have to, right? But he does have one that looks interesting too, that they haven't really released much except for like black and white little photos. But that one, I think, comes out next year, and that's the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare with Henry Cavill.
Okay.
And you know, he has this new one, The Covenant, which just looks like it's Lone Survivor but reversed. So
yeah, I'm not super excited for that one either. When I saw the trailer again, I saw a very long trailer of it, and by the middle part of the trailer, I was like, I'm kind of bored. Like, you're right. It looks like a knockoff reverse Lone Survivor. Again, I'm pretty sure it's based on a true story or whatever, and it's got Jake Gyllenhaal and blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I'm not super excited. So my quote this week is from Johnny Alinsky from the New York Post. A generic collage of mega yachts, luxe hotels, fancy parties, disguised identities, and tame fights that adds up to a big nothing. And that's kind of what Operation Fortune was. If you've got Amazon, check it out. Listen, and actually, I'm not actually giving this film a fucking recommendation. If you have it and you want to check it out, go do so. Feel free to like let us know what you think. But there's other than watching Hugh Grant in this is fucking great. I love watching Hugh Grant. The very end, like when you've got Josh Hartnett playing Hugh Grant in the movie version of what just happened, that was like one of my favorite parts of this film. And the right near the end, some of the action sequencing does pick up. So maybe just, I don't know, fast forward through half of the film. Is that
now,
I mean, I don't think it would wreck anything.
I don't think I don't know. But even still, when that ending that you're talking about with Josh Hartnett, is that him doing the actual accent, or do you think it's just them dubbing Hugh Grant over?
We could use 50, 60 pounds Semtex. Does that sound about right, Mr. Yamamoto? Or we could use one single AMG 65 Maverick missile.
Oh, that's a good question, because I don't know how good Josh Hartnett is at doing accents. And so this actually on this whole topic of like kind of spoofy and farce, actually, I'm going to create a topic right now. I think one of the problems with this film is it doesn't know what it's trying to do. Like, are you going to be a serious like spy film? Which it's obviously not. It's definitely not trying to do that. But it's not funny enough to be farce. Like, what was the one with Rowan Atkinson where he was like the James Bond character?
Johnny Dangerously,
Johnny, yeah,
or Johnny England, or
Johnny English, like yes.
That was sooner than I expected.
You gotta kind of pick a fucking lane, or is it an action film? Like, what is it you're trying to be? You can be a small mix of these, but it never does any of those things correctly. So you're kind of like, oh, it's action. Oh no, it's kind of a weird comedy. But it's not really funny enough, but it's not serious. So you got to fucking pick a lane. Pick a lane and do one thing well instead of three things poorly. Do you think, like, you could tell that they're trying to definitely set this up to be a franchise if possible? Do you think, I mean, with these budget numbers, but with it being top of Amazon and them needing content, do you think they might throw another, I don't know, 30 million on the table to make another one with maybe a smaller star-studded cast, or maybe go the other way, 60 million and have more? Like, do you think
Well, I think it all depends, right? Like, I think in terms of streaming and the streaming platforms, like, what are the franchises they have, right? Like, Netflix is doing the Chris Hemsworth one, The Extraction.
Yep.
So that one they're working on to becoming
And does Disney have one right now, other than every Star Wars fucking series that's possibly imaginable?
Well, that's the thing. I think with Disney, I don't think in reality Disney really needs one.
And does Apple have one? I mean, I think The Servant is done now.
Well, that's a TV show. I'm just talking movie wise, right?
Oh,
Apple.
okay.
Yeah, Apple. I don't know that I watched recently I watched back to back this one, and then I watched the Ghosted one with Chris Evans and Anna
I heard that is a
Armas.
fucking awful movie as well.
But that it's similar. It's an action comedy, right? But there's way more laughs, I would say, in Ghosted than this one. But also, you could tell that there's so many fucking cameos that you were not expecting in the Ghosted one, right? It kind of makes it funnier too, because you're not expecting these people to show up. But yeah, even Prime, I can't think of one. And I think that's what they need. Like, I think the first big one that Netflix tried was, what was the one with Will Smith? And he's like with orcs. It was like Boys in the Hood.
Yeah. Was it Bright or something like that? Yeah, I never watched
that. That was the first one that they tried. That was their big budget summer blockbuster, but you can watch it at home, and they haven't done a sequel to that yet. I don't know if that's more numbers wise or Chris Rock's fault. I don't know.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting to see like what the break-even point is for, like, okay, we need content, but obviously we want to spend the least amount of money. So how long does a film need to be in your number one? How many streams does it need to do? Because I'm sure they've got metrics that say like X number of streams equals production budget, right? Like anything streams over this amount per dollar of production budget is a win. Anything below is a loss, right? And by production, I mean like whatever they pay out. Like, you produce it, they go out and they buy the rights to it and make it a Netflix original or whatever they call it in Netflix. So it'll be interesting.
I was gonna say, I think it's called the Netflix original.
Yeah, it is. Well, just because I couldn't remember. I'm like, do they have a funny weird name for it? So, yeah, like I said, I got nothing else to say on this. Do you?
No, but did you answer what your Guy Ritchie movie was? It RocknRolla?
So those are my top three. I mean, after that, I mean, I think that Sherlock Holmes is good, but it's Sherlock Holmes. Like, it's not an original piece of work the way the other three are, which I think is a perfect example of like the Guy Ritchie style. I would say that like I don't really have a favorite because it depends on the kind of mood I'm in. I used to say that Snatch was basically like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but for an American audience. Like Lock,
was
Stock,
because Angelina Jolie's ex-husband was in it. If we're just attaching people to their exes, right? Is that why?
Yes, because Angelina Jolie's ex-husband was in it. I mean, Lock, Stock has fucking Sting in it. It's got like a great motley cast. I mean, it gave us Jason Statham and a whole bunch of other actors.
Vinnie Jones, man. That's the
Vinnie
movie
Jones,
that I remember Vinnie Jones from, right?
But even I don't know, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Greyhound. Like he plays like Tommy Gunn in and he's like, oh, he says that Tommy was named after a machine gun. I know he's named after a 16th century ballet dancer or whatever, right? Like that actor had a career basically, he played Al Capone, he played all kinds of other characters. Like Guy Ritchie started the careers of a lot of people with those films. And it's nice that he's still working with them. Like he works with Jason Statham a lot. He did Wrath of Man with him. Obviously, he's done a ton of other stuff with him as well. So, yeah, that's it, man. That's all I got.
And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com. This could be why Operation Fortune doesn't have the normal tropes, right? Like sometimes you just want to do something different, like get away from what you're known from and kind of make something new, right? But
you're right. And I mean, listen, if Guy Ritchie used to be known for making really cool British crime films, he's definitely done a good job of getting away from making good, cool films. Yeah, he's done a great job distancing himself. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.